Yeah, a little bit of conflict is good. A little bit of tension, different ideas, passionately working through things. If you have no conflict, you're probably not facing things that you should. And people probably don't feel psychologically safe, which means like people aren't working together.
Welcome to the Thrive Podcast. I'm Bill Potter, your host. I'm dedicated to guiding the success of founders and entrepreneurs in the tech world. Let's get started with today's blueprint for success. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
This is Pete DiSalvo, CEO of DataCapable. As we dive into today's topic, it's evident that tech companies often exude a distinct ambiance. From your experience, Pete, how does your tech company culture contrast with sectors like finance and retail?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And my previous experiences had been software engineer at Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, which is Department of Defense. These ginormous companies that have been around forever. Also Intuit, which is in the financial industry, like QuickBooks and TurboTax. And these are really big companies. In the DoD world, it's very slow paced, or maybe I would say regular paced, not necessarily slow. Whereas Intuit is, it was a startup at one point, but it's a big tech company competing with these other monster tech companies. But in general, they're so big that they move slowly, and they have a lot of people. At a startup in my company, DataCapable, we're a much smaller team. And so we're moving quickly, we're staying on top of trends quickly and innovating, and our core values and our mission and our vision resonate on a deeper level with our team compared to these bigger companies. Like if you ask somebody into it, what are your core values? I'm not sure. Well, I know when I was there, I couldn't answer that. And if somebody told me, I'm not sure that would resonate. Mm-hmm. But with a small team and our culture, those values are really important.
Good. Well, teamwork is undeniably crucial in your domain. Why is it so essential in tech to ensure harmony and seamless collaboration?
The most important thing for a startup is the team. And I really believe with the right team, you can build anything. And ideas are a dime a dozen, and execution is the difficult part. But to even execute, you need to amass a team that works together, respects each other, appreciates each other, depends on each other as well. And that's really what will accelerate your growth, being able to work together like that. And it's not easy to put together, but understanding your mission and defining that, and you don't necessarily define your values. It's more like you identify them. Mm-hmm. Like these values that underlie the team are what pulls you together. And finding people that have the same values helps them harmonize and work really well. And it's not about like, hey, well, one of our core values is innovation. You can't just make it up. Like you have to look deep and see like what exists in the team and what brings us together, and then make sure the next people you bring on value that as well.
Well, in the tech world, things can scale up and down pretty quickly. What has your experience been with how you keep the teams cohesive during those periods of scaling up and scaling down?
It's not easy, that's for sure. And transparency and communication is a big piece of it, especially as a leader, not just listening to people, but hearing them, like hearing what they say, not responding based on emotion, encouraging this perspective across the team as well. So leading by example and encouraging everybody to communicate and be transparent with each other. And a little bit of tension is good within a team. Too much is not good, but if there's no tension, you're probably doing something wrong. So It's like encouraging each other to work through issues and speak your piece and work with each other on finding the best solution.
Great. Throughout my journey as a tech leader, I've observed that team dynamics can be a real game changer on projects. Can you share a story about DataCapable, the team synergy, how that's significantly altered the outcome of a project?
Yeah, and I kind of want to go the other way with that, where we hire people that align with our values and are motivated by our mission. In these days, hiring younger talent, it's not just about the money. It's not just about these benefits like Google has that trick you into staying at the office all day and night. Like, yeah, it's great, it's cool, but it's not necessarily convincing anymore. It's just kind of expected. And so really, to attract the younger generation in talent, they need to be mission focused, like align on the mission and align on the values. And if they are high performers but don't align on the values and are creating a toxic work environment for everybody else, there's no excuse in my opinion. So you could be selling all day, all night, generating tons of revenue for the company, but if your values don't align, you're not working with the team, there's no harmony, you got to go. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that. So there's been hard decisions in the past, and it's not easy in the moment, but it's the best for the future. And with that perspective of letting people that are causing toxicity continue because they're performing, it just creates this culture that no one wants to be there.
Understood. With the rising trend of remote work, especially since COVID, I know so many companies had been remote before COVID, but it seems like every company, really, the workers want to be remote now post-COVID. What challenges and opportunities has this brought in maintaining and building team cohesion? What have been some of the challenges, the opportunities, and ultimately, how have you accomplished building cohesion?
This is a really interesting point. Our team has been remote since day one. We've been a remote team. And as we've grown, we stayed remote. And during COVID, we did the opposite. So all these companies were going remote, but our team felt isolated at home without the usual engagements at a coffee shop down the street or friends. They wanted to see each other more than just on video. So we set up an office in Chicago and Maine to give them a place where they could actually collaborate and work. And there's no replacement for it, especially with a creative team like the engineers. There's like these collisions that happen naturally in a workplace that don't happen through Zoom or online. It just wouldn't happen. And these random ideas that pop up or these random conversations, the important part is to make sure the work environment is a place where people want to be. That's key, but there's no replacement. In any company that says they're going remote because they're more efficient, I don't believe it. They're saving money, and it's not ideal. It's possible to find that perfect team that can be efficient working remote, but it's unlikely. And when I hear somebody say they prefer to work from home, I usually assume that they're not working a whole lot. During COVID, like, have you been skiing during the day on a weekday? Why is it so crowded if everyone's so efficient, Right. So it's just a different world in bringing it back to the culture. It's difficult to find the right people. But I'm curious your perspective and your history.
Yeah, my previous tech company, Message Broadcast, we, unlike you, were on site for many, many years prior to COVID. And we saw COVID coming, and we had about 2 weeks to prepare to go remote. And humorously, we had scheduled weekly management meetings to determine how quickly we would come back into the office. And I can tell you 3 years later, after the first week, after the first meeting, we stopped having those meetings because it was pretty obvious that we weren't coming back. And as COVID dissipated, we found that our employees enjoy being able to work remotely. Some of the challenges is, that we thought going into COVID was, so much happens just at the water cooler. Some of the most creative innovation, just informal chats, or being able to do formal whiteboarding sessions on the development side of the business. We couldn't imagine being able to do that remotely. But as we became adjusted to that new reality, one of the great opportunities is that it opened up a worldwide talent pool for us to be able to acquire talent. So we were always challenged with having, Message Broadcast is headquartered in Newport Beach, California, Orange County, California. And while the Southern California market has a lot of tech people, commuting was always an issue, and the geographic reach of talent was also very limited. So the moment we started really embracing working remote, we were hiring great talent from all over the country, in fact, all over the world. And so the question then became, how do we build that cohesion? And our HR department was great at developing virtual events, treasure hunts, and
what are some of the events you guys have had or activities?
Well, we've had the water cooler coffee clutch. We've made a real point on a virtual basis to celebrate marriages, births. So when somebody has made a particular accomplishment professionally, they've earned a degree, they've got a certification. We really make an effort to virtually share in the joy as we did when we were hands-on. But it's also a little bit of a challenge because time zones, is always a challenge, and we've been acquired by Link Mobility, a Norwegian CPaaS, and you talk about time zones. I mean, either somebody's up late at night or early in the morning.
As tough as it gets.
But what's interesting is, as we've acclimated to being remote, we've seen tremendous increases in productivity because it offers people, they actually end up working more hours because they're not having to commute. So they're happy that they can be casual, that they can take care of chores, but they're also always at work. And so from that standpoint, productivity has shot up. Morale, because we really make an effort to bring ourselves together virtually and be a team and create fun ways to be able to interact with each other, whether it's a treasure hunt or just a coffee clutch. It's really brought up the morale. And we were concerned that, people wouldn't work or they'd feel disconnected, because the culture at Message Broadcast was a real team. It was more like a family. Yeah. And how could we replicate that on a remote basis? And because of a lot of talented, committed people to driving company culture, we've been able to figure that out.
Yeah, it seems like it makes it easier when you have the right team that can be effective at home. And we came from the other direction where we were remote and came to this like flexible work environment. And I think that is the future, where people have the option to be in an office, collaborate as needed, but have the time to work from home, focus, and be efficient. And not the old school mentality of, if you're not here and your manager's not watching over your shoulder, then you're not working.
Right.
And it's been a really good shift for some of these larger companies that we started the episode mentioning, to kind of bring it back a little bit. You can actually be at home and still work.
Right.
Even in the DoD world, I used to have a clearance, and some of the work had to be done in a SCIF. You couldn't even bring in your phone, couldn't bring in any music, no internet access. Even some of those jobs have unclassified some stuff, so you can still be at home and access it.
Fascinating.
But the other point I wanted to make was, it's difficult when you have this flexible work environment, like our dev team in Chicago. So at the moment, we're only hiring developers in Chicago, and there's a huge talent pool, so it's not an issue at all. But we're competing with companies, like you mentioned, Message Broadcast, that you can be wherever you want. And now there's more competition to keep that Chicago talent with us when they could be anywhere.
What have you found that keeps them with DataCapable?
It really comes down to the mission. And the mission is what motivates people day to day, and they feel proud of what we've accomplished together as a team. throwing money at them only gets so far. Bonuses, salary, that all needs to be competitive, but that's kind of an expectation. Then the other piece is these benefits. There's some that are expected, like health insurance, 401k, PTO, all those typical things. We don't go as far to say, well, watch your kids in the corner of the office during the day, or we don't have a chef in the office, because we don't want to trap them there. It's like, we want to provide benefits, but it's really the mission and being connected to the purpose that really resonates.
You know, I've had the opportunity to meet with your leadership team, and one of the things that impressed me was the culture and the sense of belonging and the motivation that your people have. I think it's that was one outstanding aspect of me getting to know your company. Yes, you have great products and you have very satisfied clients, but it all starts with the team. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're all remote, there sometimes can be a disconnect. And I'm interested. It sounds like the mission is how you fostered a sense of belonging, and motivation among the team members. Where did that mission come from? Was that from you? Can you describe the mission more specifically?
It kind of sparked from the aha moment when my co-founder and I created DataCapable during Superstorm Sandy, where we were looking for information during the power outage and couldn't find it. So we realized this is a problem that we can solve, brought that to utilities, and it's been all about helping people ever since. So providing the information you need when your power goes out so you can decide, do you need to close your shop for the day, or when can you reopen, or how do you prepare? And that's been what's tied us all together, is helping people when they need it most. Mm-hmm.
During those inevitable project downturns and slower periods, every company goes through that. What strategies have you employed to sustain enthusiasm and drive, the team spirit?
The benefit of having a software as a service company is we're not necessarily project-based, although there's projects to integrate and implement new licenses with new utility customers, and that takes a lot of time and effort. But most of our R&D and development and work is on a solution, one solution, one suite of products that serve all our customers. So a downturn to us would mean we're not acquiring as many new customers as we'd like, and that means less of that like ad hoc integration work. And I would say some of the team like that, because now they're back focused on the core product, innovating, doing new interesting stuff versus some of that dull, repetitive integration things. So I think of it like a lull is not really existent necessarily.
Mm-hmm. I've spoken to some of your clients, and they are just thrilled with not just the product and the fair price, but most importantly, the service that you provide. How did you create that culture of service where customer comes first?
It was something innate to my co-founder and I, where we were always focused on relationships first. And over time, I've realized and learned that means we're customer-centric. And so that's been a theme we've enforced across all organizations, is customer comes first. Without them, we got nothing. Without the team, we have nothing. But without customers, like, what are we doing? And our personal opinion about our solutions and the value doesn't really matter. It's like the value we provide to customers. So it's been one of our values is relationships, and we see our clients as partners, and like we're here to help them as much as we can, and we've been like that since day one.
Good. At Message Broadcast, we are now a worldwide organization, and I believe we probably represent a good portion of the world in terms of diversity. Yeah, and we've really celebrated that in our tech company. How is embracing diversity enhanced creativity and problem solving at DataCapable?
That's a really good question. And first, I wanted to start by kind of talking about some of the challenges we face as an engineering team that is predominantly white men in engineering. And when we put out a job opening to the public, it's like 90%, not diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to hire people that are less qualified to check a box. So what we need to do, and what we make an effort doing, is getting these job openings in front of these diverse groups. So like, it's our job to get it in front of these groups to give them the opportunity to apply. And once they do, we fairly evaluate them. And I think that's the best we can do. So it's our job to bring in more resumes from this diverse audience and have those applications and resumes represent the diversity of the community that we're in, if you kind of break it down, and then choose the best candidate. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Yeah, at Message Broadcast, when we were recruiting, and we weren't remote, but as we became remote, we had all these opportunities to hire people, and our only guiding principle was hiring the very best talent. And it put together a patchwork of incredibly diverse cultures. And so I'm really proud of the fact that we're a melting pot. But at the end of the day, it's not, diversity was not the goal. It was hiring the best talent. And as it turned out, from a creativity and problem-solving standpoint, our best and highest achievers are from a vastly different background. And to be able to see those cultural, diverse employees work together as a team, it's a real testament to the quality of the people that we hired.
Yeah, you really start to see different perspectives and how they come into play in these teams that need to be creative. And if people all have the same perspective, you're just not getting the innovation or not considering different angles you would be with people that just have a totally different perspective.
Reflecting on my past ventures, there have been pivotal moments where a change in team dynamics and cultural diversity influenced the trajectory of that project. Pete, you've experienced, explain to me what you've experienced in terms of transformative shifts at DataCapable in terms of your projects.
One of the biggest shifts was having that office to collaborate, having those collisions where a creative team can work together and those ideas that come up naturally that wouldn't otherwise. That's been huge for progress. And the return on investment of that office space in itself is huge. I can't imagine where we'd be without that. I've seen the acceleration, and it's been incredible. But we are still balancing this remote concept with people, and there is a lot of talent in other places. But as we look for new people to join the team, I try to caution everybody that culture doesn't mean we hire people that look like us, that have the same hobbies, and we'd hang out and be friends and have a beer. Like, that's not culture. And we need to keep that in mind as we find new people. Culture is like underlying values, and that doesn't mean we look the same. It doesn't mean we'd ever hang out outside of work, maybe. But we get along because we're tied together by these like core values that are deep within us.
That's a fantastic point. I'm very familiar with your competitors, and as competition becomes more fierce, and I've seen that DataCapable has been able to take business away from your competitors. How has a robust company culture provided a strategic advantage to DataCapable over its competition?
Yeah, it's important to move quick as a startup in general, and it's something that it's an edge we have over some of our bigger competitors. They're so big, it's harder for them to move quickly. They're just like a bigger, slower organization. And having a team that's aligned on culture, has psychological safety, which is, I think, the like underpinning of a strong team. Everybody feels safe to give their input, not be ridiculed. Everyone feels safe to fail fast and often, which we encourage. Like, let's fail so we can get forward and move quickly. Whereas some of our competitors are bigger and they don't have the luxury of shifting gears that quickly.
One of the things that I found in interviewing top talent at Message Broadcast is that they're interested in the stability of the company, but that is a distant consideration for their decision to accept a position with us. It's the culture.
Yeah.
So our culture really has been a beacon to attract top talent. Also flexibility. The remote capabilities of our staff has they've embraced the change. They've adapted to it. In terms of advice that you would have for aspiring entrepreneurs as it comes to culture, what advice would you give them when they're building a team that's not only skilled but also harmonizes impeccably with these projects?
Yeah, the first step for an entrepreneur, as soon as you start thinking about bringing somebody in, and that might be a co-founder, is what are your values? Like, identify those first. Like,
Your
that's
mission, your goals.
even before that, what's important to you? To me, that's relationships and like that customer centric perspective. And if I had ever found a co-founder who prioritize like revenue or money, like in a transactional way, then that wouldn't have worked out. So like identifying those values, maybe 5 of those off the bat, then mission, like what is your mission, strategy and goals. Like those are the core pieces as you start to think about bringing more people in that align with it.
Well, speaking of that, when you're bringing in new team members, how do you ensure that their values align with the company?
It's not easy. And we find the most success when we hire through our network. So either through team members that know somebody they've worked with in the past or know somebody in their personal life, some kind of reference usually gets us through some of that trial and error with somebody we didn't know otherwise. That's our safest bet. And usually, that's 10 for 10. They align with culture. No issues. But as we grow, we're opening the door to the entire world. Like you mentioned, actually the entire world now, not just San Diego or Chicago. And it's difficult to interview for values. And it is a science. Like there are ways to measure and check. And I don't believe you can rely on your gut feeling. I don't think it's about your gut. I think you really need to look for these values and measure in the interview process.
One thing that we found very effective is our culture encourages the free flow of ideas, and that helps with quality assurance when we're launching new products, but also the innovation. How has that culture at DataCapable encouraged the open, free exchange of ideas?
Yeah, that goes back to the psychological safety, which is what pulls the whole team together. If your team feels safe in their role, meaning they can voice their opinion without being ridiculed or shut down, they can try new ideas and test and trust each other. They all feel psychologically safe together. That is what pulls everyone together and harmonizes the team for the future. And it takes a lot of work and patience to make it happen and to encourage it, like encourage failure. It's a good thing as long as we learn from it. Don't fail the same way twice.
Well, I can't imagine that you've never had conflict at DataCapable. How do you address conflict to promote growth?
Yeah, a little bit of conflict is good. A little bit of tension, different ideas, passionately working through things. If you have no conflict, you're probably not facing things that you should. And people probably don't feel psychologically safe, which means like people aren't working together. But on the other extreme, when there's too much tension, too much conflict, it creates a toxic work environment for everybody. And it starts to create these silos where everyone's like, stay away from me and my work. And it rips apart the team. So like on both ends of that spectrum, you're ripping the team apart, and you got to find that perfect middle ground of just the right amount of tension and conflict.
I know that, as I said earlier, that I was really impressed with the team spirit that you've established at DataCapable. And in that effort of strengthening those relationships, what type of team building activities do you invest in?
There's been some fun ones we did recently. We've done a few virtually, and they're good, but they're no replacement for what you can do in person with people. Just being together in the same room, meeting somebody really changes the dynamic. But virtually, we did a yoga session, which is cool, chair yoga. And it's not everybody enjoys yoga, but I think it's important to kind of just control your emotions, calm down, take a minute to breathe, relax. We've done happy hours, so had everyone choose their alcoholic drink or non-alcoholic, had it shipped to their house, and we all open it together, have a drink, play some games. In person, we did a fun one recently that was an egg drop. So you've got these tools, teams of 3. We're going to drop your egg from the second floor inside this contraption, and whoever egg doesn't break wins. We did popsicle sticks in a little bit of tape in a marshmallow, and you have to get the marshmallow to be as high as you can with these things. So some really fun stuff that is interesting to see the dynamic of the team and how they work together, come up with ideas, and you see the teams that really mesh well win.
Mm-hmm. Most outsiders to the utility industry probably thinks the industry never changes. Flip a switch, the power's on.
Yeah.
But you and I both know how much the utility industry has changed and is going through rapid change, from green initiatives to a whole variety of technology and customer engagement trends. How do you support ongoing skill development so that your staff keeps up with industry changes?
It's interesting working with utilities because the utility is our customer, DataCapable's customer. But some of the solutions we provide, like our outage and event map, is used by the utilities customers. So it's like we're creating a product that's paid for by our customers, but our customers' customers are who's getting the most value sometimes. And it's really important for us to anticipate what our customers' customers, or like the actual end user, like what they'll need or what their expectations are. And we need to stay ahead of the ball and kind of anticipate that and innovate with that perspective in mind along the way.
I've spent some time with your management team. You, Kevin Peterson, your chief operating officer. How have you guys built trust? As leaders, and I've seen the inspiration and the guidance that you've inspired in your employees. But how did you accomplish that?
The first step is following through on your word. So when I give someone my word, then I've committed at that moment and I'm going to make it happen. And communicating through that process is important, but you can quickly lose trust if you say you'll do something and then you do something else, or you don't do it. Immediately you've lost trust. And that part is really important to me personally, is to follow through and be there for people. One of the things I wanted to mention was I've been at bigger companies where it's just a paycheck, and the motivating part might not be the mission. Like, I'm not passionate about financial software. It's kind of dull. But Intuit was an awesome company. But the thing that motivated me day to day was being there for my team, trusting each other, and like having that camaraderie of a team. Like, we're doing this together. And that's motivating and invaluable to me and our team, DataCapable team in general.
Terrific. Well, in closing, I want to thank you for watching this episode of Thrive Podcast. In this episode, I hope it added value to your journey. If it did, please share and subscribe and leave us a review. And my message to all tech founders and entrepreneurs, I encourage you to visit our website. Remember that most businesses can experience periods of stagnation. And here at Thrive Advisors, we put together a plan for you, implement it, and manage you through that successful exit. Thanks again for joining us.